that a second explanation will be needed, this time with model cars, we ask ourselves if they really understand what is being asked from them.
Just take the clothes on. So basically just first with you. I need just you, even if you it's not very fast in the beginning, you just can with movement with your car, because I have two nose cameras on your move behind drive like this, and then you take over and I have all this in the picture.
Juan Pablo seems not to understand fully, and now even more explaining must be done.
And for you it's important that it's always the best way coming from the left.
And, as this is not enough, the Colombian is struggling. One has the impression that there has never been a more complicated scene in the history of cinema.
He was trying to get me in the outside. They went like this.
So you took the touch?
No, he went in.
But he
tried to steer in with me into the apex. But what happens when he did that, I moved the steering and my rear tires locked. That was with the rear tires locked.
So you just pushed wide, yeah.
It's a different world, you know. Last year I was a bit around, you know, the filming of the movie Driven. So yeah, I've seen quite a lot of this already. What I like is driving the cars. It's just something different. You know, it takes a lot of time, and it's cut and cut and cut and cut and cut. And yeah, it's part of the job. You know, it's part of the job, to be honest. And you know, it's like, I think for a driver this is not the most enjoyable part, but you know, you gotta deal with it and try to enjoy it, and that's what you do. I think it's, you know, it's for everybody's best. You know, for the team best, you know, sponsors best, and everything. And you know, without sponsorship or, you know, like companies like this, we wouldn't be anywhere.
Okay, we understand Juan Pablo. We know he will put his best effort forward as an actor, but his heart may not really be in it. For now, in any case, we ask him to put on a good face, of course, without a helmet.
No flash.
For this type of scene, no one is asking for an Academy Award performance. For Ralf Schumacher, it's the same idea. And once in the car, the German needs just to look towards his left.
Well, obviously there are nicer things, but seeing the outcome of the work you did in the day and the procedures and seeing the actual clip, it's quite nice. But then I'm a racing driver, and to be honest, I prefer to drive a race car, not doing any filming work.
And now the filming is taken to the circuit. As the director earlier explained, it is necessary for the two drivers to run together as close as possible, simulating a heated side-by-side duel under racing conditions. And next up, the preparation for the sequence with the giant nails. And as we said, they are a very large size, and the placing of them takes quite a bit of time. And now, as we see, they take the cars and drivers, and we realize that everything is filmed at an incredibly slow speed. Very important anyway, as we will see a nail nearly falls. The last scene is to be shot, and not the easiest for our drivers. In this one, they install the famous nails. This will be the opening sequence in the ad. Ralf Schumacher must handle this full box of nails, but he seems to be worried about injuring himself. After, the two teammates exit a shop and pass through the frame. One could say they don't seem very much at ease. In any case, the moment has arrived for the final product. The difficult work is done for Messrs. Schumacher and Montoya. Showdown on the track. The drivers are on their marks. Physically and mentally trained to the hilt. They're ready for the battle out on the circuit. And to squeeze out the last few tenths of a second of speed, they must be able to rely absolutely on their car's technical setup. But the duel is not just about car against car or driver against driver. The whole team has to work together perfectly, especially at pit stops. It's then that the right strategy plays an important role. Whether you're on a one- or two-stop strategy depends on what the engineers have worked out. What will give you the biggest time advantage? Personal preference doesn't come into play. For the drivers, only one thing counts. The fastest option is always the best option. Pit stops have so often decided a race. Everything must run perfectly and without a hitch. Every move must be right. Because it's very hard to make up for time lost during a pit stop. But exactly who does what in these all-important seconds? It's one of the most spectacular moments in a race, rehearsed and choreographed. Everything normally runs to perfection. As soon as the car comes to a standstill, the front man gets it up on the jack. Exact timing and precise docking is called for. Just as it is from his counterpart at the rear, refueling is an art in itself. The hose connector must be fixed on quickly and accurately. To avoid accidental ignition of the fuel mixture, a screen separates the hot engine from the fuel tank aperture. Petrol fumes are suctioned off, but just in case anything happens, there's always a man with a fire extinguisher, always at the ready. 3 crew members handle the wheel change. One loosens and tightens the wheel nuts, one takes off the old wheel, and one puts on the new wheel. More than anything else, hard training is needed to achieve such extreme speed. Another man stands by with a jump start battery in case the car stalls. The man standing in front of the car keeps an eye on the whole pit stop and waits for the crew's OK signal. When everything's been checked and the mechanics are out of the way of any danger, he spins around his lollipop board, which is the sign for the driver to engage first gear, and then he pulls the lollipop board away. The path is clear, and the driver heads back out of the pit lane. The best teams can complete a full pit stop, including refueling and a wheel change, within 7 seconds.
You do need a lot of practice, and you need to be very, you come to drive the car with no fuel at all, before the pit stop, and then they fill it up, whatever you're going to put in, 60, 80, or 100 kilos, or whatever you put in.
For the drivers, that means the car handles quite differently as they exit down the pit lane. They must also be careful not to cross the white line, as that would lead to a time penalty. It's a harsh rule, but a sensible one. On the track and on the road, regular and well-performed pit stops make sure that everything runs well and the drivers arrive safely. And now off to Germany, more specifically Sindelfingen. We are in the Mercedes Techno Center, better known by the name MTC. Kimi Räikkönen is here, as well as David Coulthard. The 2 drivers, who will stay on in McLaren in 2003, are paying a visit to the center where 9,200 are employed, and which measures in at 750,000 square meters. After a brief welcoming, the 2 drivers take a seat in a special projection room. In fact, it is a simulator.
One of the biggest applications you can see here is the crash simulation. You're in the middle of a longitude.
Here, with their special glasses, they get an idea and see the behavior of components in the case of an accident.
There are also arrows which show me the contact of the part.
To change the tools from the garage people with the mouse.
And next, they take their places at another simulator where they will have the impression of actually driving a real car. In this case, the Maybach that was presented at the Paris Motor Show earlier this year.
So this has got the seat that comes up. And
telling the truth, this is a new interior from your new car, from the new season.
Yeah. So this is much more comfortable than what I normally have.
Okay. We are able to drive here.
Yeah.
We are able to simulate the whole electronic. Yeah.
I think that it's been a real eye-opener for me to come to the Technology Centre, because obviously I've worked with Mercedes for a number of years now, but to see that there's over 9,000 people here employed looking at the future development of future models, and obviously the crash test facilities, to see the CL being crashed is quite impressive. And one of the things I took out of today is, obviously as a normal road car driver, I'm really happy that my mother drives a Mercedes and my girlfriend drives a Mercedes, because you don't think about yourself having a crash, but I feel a lot more confident that if they have a crash, then they're in the best car to reduce the risk of injury.
And thus, one perfectly understands the resources of marketing and communication. An instructive visit, in any case, for the 2 drivers used to breathtaking speeds and sensations, but who know that safety is an ongoing battle. Attentive spectators, DC and Kimi seem quite impressed.
I think there's a lot Formula One can learn from what they're doing here at the research centre. You know, obviously there's a lot of technology in Formula One which is way beyond what is used in normal cars. But equally, some of the simulations of crash testing, the simulations of the ergonomics of a car, the 3D facility, is something that we could use in Formula One. And I believe the McLaren engineers have been here discussing some partnerships before, which is good because it should take more than the driver to think of those ideas.
An amusing souvenir photo in front of this Mercedes CLK, which was used for the crash test on the day. And all ends with a chance to meet the personnel at MTC, reassembled in the large courtyard.
Herr Hauptbarten, ich soll doch den einen anderen Mann nennen, der das gefragt hat, per E-Mail oder wie auch immer. Der letzte war eben der Kollege Markus Windhab, nur damit er sieht, dass seine Frage... Easy as that.
A relaxed atmosphere led by Norbert Haug, who knows and doesn't forget that Mercedes is to invest 650 million euros for this techno center, which certainly merits a courtesy call from the two Formula One drivers.
Very careful, okay? To start, I will stand in case you shoot up.
Yes, you have recognized this man. It's none other than Olivier Panis, who is fulfilling one of his last promotional commitments for the Bar team before moving on to Toyota for next year. Here we have France's sole driver on the Formula One roster who is in for some fun on this very unusual skateboard, where the rider controls the movements by a handheld device. An electronic skateboard makes one think, doesn't it? We are here in Monaco, and the winner of the 1996